We go.
Hello, welcome to the Fairy Whispering Podcast. With me this evening is Russ, and we met, didn't we, Russ, at a recent event?
Yes, we
Um,
certainly did.
and I was talking to Russ about his experiences. You've had some experiences of seeing a big cat in Dartmoor, and you've also got a lot of knowledge about Dartmoor and paganism and some interesting things that I thought would be interesting to bring you on and explore on the podcast. So, welcome, Russ.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. So, where should we start? Do you want to talk a little bit about how your interest in Dartmoor started? And
God. Well, I've lived in Plymouth, on the sort of southern side of Dartmoor most of my life.
mm,
Dartmoor's always been a bit of a playground for me, especially during my sort of growing up phase. I would go for walks on the moors with my parents. Um, Interestingly, at that point, I didn't really know why I was so enamored with the moors. But it soon came to be that I found myself being able to relate to the sort of the natural elements of the moors far more deeply than other people around me. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But there are certainly areas of the moor that have got a greater feel to them, a greater sense. There is more than just eye candy to the moors in a lot of areas, and especially in the areas where people tread less, where it's slightly more wild, slightly
mhm.
closer to its natural state. And yeah, I'm very pleased to be able to talk to you about it.
Mm. I'd love to hear about some of those areas that you've I mean, you don't need to give the precise location. If there are places that are special to you, but it'd be good to hear about what you've felt or seen or experienced in some of these places.
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of these places are fairly well known anyway, so I won't be I will use their names,
Okay.
and it'll be great for people to go there and see how they feel when they visit these places.
Hmm.
The the most prolific one, of course, is Wismans Wood,
Mm.
and I know we talked about Wismans Wood and
Mm.
how unfortunately it's preserved now. You're not able to go into the woods, but you can go up to the woods and you can see just you can feel how special the area is. It's
Mm.
actually one of the oldest natural oak woods in Europe now. And you can see its position in the valley where you have the wind coming up through. All the oak trees are nicely bent and gnarled, and they're covered in wonderful moss. The stones that are there, quite big boulders that have come down from the tors, are prolific throughout the woods as well. You would, if there was one place on the moors where you would expect to see fairies and other little people, Wismans Wood is it. And
Mm.
you only really have to just gaze on Wismans Wood to really feel a sense of wonder and a sense of something special going on there. But Wismans Wood is one area. If you, I remember trying to find the source of the West Dart
Oh,
with my
right.
children,
Yeah.
and if you follow the river further up valley,
Hmm.
you will come to a weir. But
Yes.
further on, you get into what I would call the wild area where people don't tend to go because it's just that little bit too far away from their cars if they're parked on the main road.
Yes.
And it takes a while to get there.
Hmm.
And there's nothing really there apart from grassland, hills, and skylarks.
Mm.
But that's got its own special feel to it. But when
Hmm.
you are far removed away from people and you can't hear anything but the wind and the skylarks, there is a sense of calm. There is a sense of just pure nature there. And that you can feel the vitality of the area. And if you just stop and you listen, it pervades your pores. You can't help but feel calm. You can't help but feel energized, and it's just a wonderful area to go.
Mm.
Literally, you can stand there, and you could be anywhere. You People don't go there. You don't see anybody, but you can feel how raw the energy is there as well. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Is this
Um,
is this beyond? Sorry, Russ. Is this beyond the Lichway? The Lichway that crosses the river?
yes, yes, it
Mm.
is. Yes, it is. It's much further up. You've We were trying to find the source of the West Dart, which is very, very high up on the moor. We didn't quite make it, unfortunately, because it was getting a little bit too rough for us up there at the time. But we will do it one day. We will do it one day, yes. But it was much further in than the Lichway. Um,
Yeah, that's amazing that
one,
you do this with your children as well. That you're
yes. Well,
educating.
we've always done that. I say my children, they're adults now. But I have always taken the kids up on the moors. I'm a bit of a sort of forager and a survivalist as well. So I was always taking tarpaulins with us, and we were making shelters and things like that. So I was teaching the kids what they could eat if they were stuck on the moors, how they could protect themselves with shelters and bits and pieces. Um, so they've grown up with that, and they thoroughly enjoy it. And as we were
Wow,
talking, we went for a walk today, and thoroughly good time.
that's incredible. Those skills that you've just taught yourself since, growing up, or did your parents?
I think they are, yes, yeah. My
Yeah.
parents didn't really become involved in that, but I had a great sense of wanting to be in nature as much as I can and being as close to nature as possible. You can't really
Mm.
get much closer than camping. Thankfully, we're still allowed to camp in certain areas on the moor.
Yes. Yeah.
Not all of the areas, but some of the areas, and it's something that I love to do. Just take a tent or take a tarpaulin even, and
Mm.
just camp overnight. It's There's something very special about it. Waking up in the very pale morning light, and seeing the mist in the valleys, and you're the only person there at that time seeing that, and it's quite special. It really is.
That
I
reminds me. Sorry, carry on.
No, no, well, I was going to
Mm.
go on to another area if that's
Yeah,
okay.
carry
But
on. Carry on. Yeah.
one one area that I think a lot of people will know about is Crazy Pool.
Hmm.
Now Crazy Pool is just sort of north of Burritle, and it's a pool of water. What can I say? It is a pool of water, and it is odd because it's quite high on the moor,
Mm.
and it always seems to have a very steady level surface of water.
Oh, right.
Um, One of the strangest there, it's there's lots of legends associated with it. One legend says that if you're there as the sun sets and you stare at your reflection in the water, then you'll be dead by next morning. Um,
Gosh, yeah.
and there are tales. There are
Mm.
tales. I don't know how true they are, but Crazy Whirlpool is a very odd area. It's quite foreboding,
Mm.
and you can almost imagine the pool actually going straight down. There are legends that it's bottomless. It's not bottomless, but it is very deep. And you can almost feel the energy of the earth coming out of it, because it's quite a scar in the landscape.
Hmm.
But strangely, it's nothing to do with the drift mining that they did up there.
Oh, right.
It's always been there, but there's lots of adits that sort of look as though they were draining water off Fraser Pool at some point. But the
Mm.
water level very rarely changes, even in droughts.
It's
quite
interesting.
remarkable.
Yeah.
If you were to go north from Crazelwell Pool, you will find the old leat that carries water off the moor and down towards Tavistock.
Hmm.
And if you follow that leat um, eastwards, you will come to a little viaduct, and it carries the leat over this little valley.
Oh,
And the little valley is at the head of one of the forests that border Burrator Reservoir.
oh, right.
But the valley itself
Mm.
is very special. It's got a very, very special feel to it. It's almost always swathed in mist,
Mm.
and when you're in there, it just feels otherworldly. It's absolutely amazing. And
Wow. I have to go
so,
there.
well,
Sounds
it's
amazing.
these little areas that people just don't seem to go to
Yeah.
because they're off the beaten track. It takes a little bit of getting there, and a lot
Mm.
of people like to sort of take a walk near their car. Unless you're sort of a hardened hiker,
Mm.
you kind of won't see these places, but it is absolutely stunning there. Now, when we talked the other night, I told you about Belvoir Forest.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
Belvoir Forest is again, it's a site of some old stone circles
Mm. Hmm.
and cairns. There is a very good walk that you can do from Post Bridge up the spine to the tour, and you will see there are lots of different things to see as you're walking
Mm.
up there.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
further down in the valley, I made a wonderful discovery when I was there with the children, actually, but quite a few years ago. And the valley is quite heavily wooded, but it's all plantation trees, so it's all pine trees. And these pine trees have grown up through what was originally, I guess, just grassland. But
Mm.
there is a white marker in amongst some of the trees as you're walking down one of the forest paths. And if you go to that marker and you look through the trees, there's a small opening. And if
Mm.
you look further up, you can see there's another white post. So if you walk to that white post, you'll see another white post. And there are about five or six of these white posts going through the forest. And eventually, if you follow them, it brings you out to this clearing. And there is another stone circle there. And it's
Wow.
quite a big stone circle, but it's hidden away from everybody. And obviously, the forest has grown up around it, but they've but that area has been kept clear, and it is quite remarkable.
Wow.
It's a great place to just sit and meditate because you're far removed from anybody, and
Yes.
just absolutely stunning, beautiful, beautiful.
It's,
Um,
yeah, I love finding places like that on Dartmoor, and there are so many. And as you say, it's only if you really walk and, just walk off the beaten
Oh,
track.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful experience with my daughter when we took a little walk from Norsworthy Bridge, the northern side of Dartmoor, and
Mm.
we walked up one of the paths towards Cuckoo Rock, Cuckoo
Yes.
Rocks.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
the time of year that we went there, uh, the moor was carpeted with bluebells, so
Mm.
it looked special anyway. And we took a walk up there and we were hearing the cuckoos. We just managed to get there at the right time of year, the bluebells for the cuckoos to be cuckooing all over the place.
Mhm.
But we were trying to find the cuckoos, but of course they were leading us on a goose chase, so to speak. But we walked up around. We were trying to find Cuckoo Rock itself, but we failed miserably on that, unfortunately. But we did find our way through to some of the tours
Mm.
above Thorator.
Mhm.
And that area, I mean, that day was very special because it was early summer. Is that when bluebells come out? Is it early summer, late spring?
Yeah, on Dartmoor, it's kind of
Mm.
late May, early June on Dartmoor. It's a
Yes,
bit
yeah.
later, isn't it?
So
Yeah.
so you could actually feel the burgeoning vitality coming through the ground
Mm-hmm.
at that point, and it kind of got our senses thrilling. There were bullfinches in the trees chirping away, doing a lovely song, and we just felt absolutely enthralled by everything that we were experiencing at that time. And you can tell that that area, again, it's quite close to Burrator, but not a lot of people go there, and that was beautiful as well. I
Mm.
thoroughly enjoyed that. Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yes, it is a special area. I went to the Cuckoo Rock in August for the
Oh yeah.
first time. Yeah, it's a beautiful valley, isn't it? The Deancon
So yeah,
Valley.
yeah, just a couple of months after us.
Oh, was it?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Ah,
It's
yeah,
quite a
because
recent thing.
yes, and there's some old oh, what's it called? Like a tin workings.
Yes, yeah.
Uh,
And there's some
mm,
ancient ruins there as well, some homesteads that people
mm,
probably lived in a little bit further up. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
yeah,
But
that's
again,
mm,
you can see why people chose to live there. It's
definitely.
quite incredible. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
especially when the climate, I guess, was a bit warmer as well a few hundred years ago. Would have been very sheltered, wouldn't it? And
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and of course, Dartmoor was quite heavily sort of inhabited. I think there were
mm,
lots of areas, lots of enclosures for animals, and lots of little villages.
yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
an amazing place. So
absolutely.
much. I mean, I've been I've been exploring it since I was a child, and there's still so much that
Oh, you
I've not
yeah,
seen.
you could
Yeah.
spend a lifetime on Dartmoor and you still wouldn't see everything that it has to offer.
Mm,
365 square miles, um,
mm,
which is incredible, really. What an absolute treasure we have in Devon.
yeah.
You know, it makes up the majority of Devon's land mass,
Hmm.
and to think that it's the remnants of an old volcanic batholith underneath the surface of the earth, and
Mm,
the tores of granite extrusions from that batholith. But
hmm.
it's got but that's it. It is raw nature. It
Mm,
is raw nature, which has been somewhat tamed through industry over the years, but there are still some very special areas. You just need
yes.
to know how to find them and where they are.
Yeah. Which I've been lost a few times on Dartmoor.
Mm,
So easy, isn't it? It's very
it
disorientating.
is. But it's again, it's when you go when you really push yourself and you go further afield than
Mm,
most people go.
mm,
Um, it's very easy to become disoriented. Very
yes.
easy. You know, if especially if you find yourself on a featureless plain
Mm,
and all you have is grass and
yeah.
maybe some trees scattered around. If you turn around, you don't know which way you come, you don't know which way to go, but you'll always end up getting back to where you need to be.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'd love to hear about your sighting that
Mm,
you had, which is
yes, yes.
really fascinating.
My
Yeah.
sighting, my big cat sighting.
Yeah.
Now I know a lot of people sort of poo-poo the idea of big cats on Dartmoor. Um, However, I had a sighting which was quite remarkable, and I've done quite a lot of research into it, and I can more or less be 100% that what I saw was real. Now, this is going back to around about 1992.
Hmm.
I was with my girlfriend at the time. We parked in the car park, and we were walking up towards Cox Tor, which is the first tour that you get if you're coming from Tavistock.
Mm, hmm.
We were going up there because we were doing post boxing. So we were going up there to try and find these stamps that you could stamp your book. It's a sort of pre pre-geocaching thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah,
finding QR codes and bits and pieces, you had rubber stamps with ink pads that you would share, and it was
yeah.
fantastic. It gave you a
Hmm.
good reason to go out on the moor and
Yeah.
do these things. So
Hmm.
we were on our way up to Cox Tor, and it would have been late summer, so the ferns had sort of died down, and they were quite tall still, but they were brown. And we were walking up this quite wide pathway that lead up to the tor, flanked by these tall fern stems. And with Cox Tor, you have the first stems, fern stems, then you have some sort of scree, some tumbled rocks that have come down off the tor, and then you have the tor proper itself. Now, as we were walking up through the pathway, I saw what looked like a sandy coloured dog, like a rough collie, like a lassie dog. And I could only just see the top of it because it was obscured by some of the ferns at the top. Now, I always, if I see a dog on the moor, I always scan to see if I can see the owners of the dog. And I couldn't see anybody with this animal. And I'm thinking, well, that's strange. You very rarely see dogs off the lead and sort of far away from their owners or running around on their own. And I thought, this is strange, so I'll keep an eye on it. And we saw it sort of bobbing along, and then it crossed the pathway in front of us, which was clear. And I would say probably at arm's length, it was probably about an inch long. Um, and it was quite clearly a sandy coloured puma. It had a round head, it had a long body and a really long tail, and it was slinking along. Dogs walk upright, cats slink between their shoulders, and this thing was slinking along. It disappeared behind the ferns again. I turned to my girlfriend at the time and I said, right, let's not go up on the tour today. And we turned around and we went back down to the car and we drove off.
Good evening, Goblin here. Claire knows how much I love digging up local legends and researching haunted places. So let's have a quick little chat while I mix some interesting alien big cat sightings and basic info and standards regarding them. An alien big cat, or a phantom cat, is a large feline species, such as a cougar or lynx or jaguar, that is seen outside of its native habitat, a place where they don't naturally exist. Britain has no native big cats, but people often report seeing them, and sometimes they even become a part of the local folklore, such as the Beast of Bodmin Moor in Cornwall. Here's a sighting I found on the paranormal database that took place in 2009. Quote, driving along the M25, Karen Thomas reported seeing a large black cat on the edge of a field. The creature was described as 10 times larger than a dog. End quote. Most ABCs are described as being similar in size to a German Shepherd. So if we're going with that as the standard for dog size, that would put this big black cat at around 20 feet. One of the main criticisms of ABC sightings is that it's just a result of distorted perspective, and that a cat's size is just misjudged when seen from afar. 20 feet tall, though. Pretty easy to distinguish that from your everyday house cat, I would think. Sometimes ABCs are reported as being kind of a cat-dog hybrid, such as this sighting from Cumbria in 2008. The report reads, quote, a witness spotted a gray-colored creature walking up a small hill with trees on top. The animal looked about the size of a large dog. It had a greyhound-like head with a long muzzle, but the body was much more like that of a big cat, complete with a long, thick tail. End quote. Another story from 1940, so one of the older ones when it comes to alien black cat reports, tells of a beast with the head of a lion and the body of a dog, seen on the Isle of Wight, who was believed to be responsible for killing rabbits and livestock, and dubbed the Fectus Monster. alien black cats are commonly blamed for livestock deaths and mutilations. The hound Tor beast, which was actually photographed by a falconer on Dartmoor in 2007, described the creature he saw as being, quote, black and gray and comparable in size to a miniature pony. It had very thick shoulders, a long, thick tail with a blunt end, and small, round ears. Its movement appeared feline, then bear-like sprang to mind, end quote. The photos, which are, of course, grainy, show a dark, stocky animal that's been proposed to be a number of different animals, such as bears, boars, wolverines, and various breeds of dog. Now, there are actually quite a few photographs people have snapped of their big cat sightings, but all of them are poor quality cell phone images, and this is a huge point of scrutiny for people. Skeptics question the veracity of the sightings since there are no clear photographs, but I think most of us know how difficult it is to take a good photograph of a distant object on our cell phone. And who wants to inch closer to a black panther? Another interesting report comes from Ellesmere, Shropshire, from August 1997. Quote, this large albino cat was seen close to the cottages and was reported to resemble a lion. The same area is reportedly haunted by a headless woman, end quote. A large albino lion is certainly unique and notable. And this also brings up how large cat sightings are often in areas known for other strange activity and hauntings. The town of Ellesmere, where this albino lion was seen, also has the headless woman mentioned in the post, who was said to be the cause of a carriage accident at one time, and also a headless man. Well, sometimes headless. Apparently, he could choose whether he wanted to appear with his head or not, until a 19th century minister performed an exorcism where he turned the sometimes headless man into a cat, shrunk him down to be small enough to fit into a glass bottle, and forced the ghost into the bottle, which was then placed inside 3 iron chests and buried under a barn to remain for 99 years. Not only that, but Ellesmere is, as its name implies, on the edge of a mere, which itself is haunted by a shouting white lady, Jenny Greenteeth, one of my favorites, and the tolling of sunken bells from a church said to be submerged beneath the waters. Ellesmere really has it all. But it's cases like this that make you wonder, with all this paranormality surrounding an area, if the big cat sightings aren't supernatural as well. Since alien big cats have yet to be pristinely photographed and only a handful of physical specimens have been captured or recovered, some argue that the felines are of a spectral nature. And, of course, many will say it's all rubbish, but there are so many people with personal encounters. I even know someone who's seen one. My cousin's wife, who's from Cornwall, told me she saw one as a child in Gloucester. Think what you want, but for now, let's get back to the interview.
I've done I've done a little bit of research on this, and this was 1992. In 1978, Mary Chipperfield, who was co-owner of Plymouth Zoo, made an arrangement to deliver 5 pumas from the Plymouth Zoo, which was closing at the time, to Dartmoor Zoo. So she was driving over the moor to get to Dartmoor Zoo. Only 2 pumas arrived at Dartmoor Zoo, apparently. And the idea is that she actually stopped somewhere on the moor and she let 2 males and a female puma go loose on the moors. It wasn't illegal back then.
Yeah.
And I think it was 1982 when the Dangerous Animals Act prohibited that. And it's quite interesting to think that there was a female and 2 males released there. Dartmoor's quite an easy habitation for big cats like that. It's fairly comfortable for them. There's lots of food. Temperatures don't vary that greatly. certainly not in comparison to North America. And the idea that those three cats had offspring isn't too far-fetched.
Mm.
I think what I saw that day, because it exceeded the normal lifespan of a big cat, I think what I saw that day was the offspring of a breeding pair.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting is that I don't know whether that cat was on its own, or whether it had other cats around with it, or whether it was going to where they sort of live. But if it was on its own, then that could have been the last offspring in that particular genetic pool, if you like.
Mm.
I don't know whether there are cats on the moor now. Having said that, again, I went for a walk in an area that I've very seldom gone, and that is up around Meldon Quarry, up on the Oakhampton side of the moor. It's quite different to the southern moor up there. There's deep valleys. It's quite wild anyway. If you don't know where you're going, you quite easily get lost up there.
Mm.
But we decided to walk from the Meldon Reservoir up the West Oakmont River to Blackatock's Core. Blackator Copse.
Yes.
I'm saying that. Yes.
Yeah.
Interestingly, and I have to explain, my son is actually a paleontologist. He's
Oh,
doing his master's at Portsmouth at the moment.
amazing.
So he's
Yes.
fascinated by dead things anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we actually found, bearing in mind the West Oakmont River isn't that big, it's probably about 4 miles long. We found 4 sheep skeletons.
Mm.
4 sheep skeletons in a very condensed area, that were quite freshly killed because they were still fairly intact. The skull was still attached to the spine, and it hadn't been ravaged by other sort of animals like foxes
Okay.
or birds. And
Mm-hmm.
he was fascinated by all of this, but puzzled. We were all puzzled about the fact that there were so many,
Yeah, that's a
and
lot, isn't it?
it
Yeah.
was very strange. Now, I'm friends with Rhoda Watkins, who lives in Redruth, and she is a big cat investigator.
Okay.
And I messaged her
Mm.
about these skeletons, and she actually confirmed that a few weeks prior to that, there have been some reported sightings of a black big cat and a couple of valleys over
Mm-hmm.
towards um gosh, what's it called now?
Bellstone?
Bellstone, that's it. I was thinking of the fox, and of course, yes, the Bellstone fox. So yes, so in some of the valleys nearer Bellstone, so a couple of valleys over,
Yeah.
there have been some reported sightings of a big black cat, and
Right.
that seems
Yeah.
to go hand in hand with the sheep skeletons that we actually found there. We were quite
Mm.
lucky to sort of not that I think that a cat would actually attack a person, but I very rarely go for a walk on the moors without taking a big walking stick. Let's
Okay.
put it that
That's a good tip.
way. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know. I saw a YouTube video, maybe it's about 18 months or so ago, of a guy walking on Dartmoor up around Belliver, and he'd
Oh yeah,
captured the film of a black cat, big black cat.
really.
Mm.
See, it's interesting. The black cats, I think, are probably hybrids.
Mm.
I think that there aren't a lot of they don't seem to be black panthers or black leopards. They seem to be a hybrid species, and I think with people releasing their pets, for want of a better word, when the Dangerous Animals Act came in, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fairly healthy gene pool of cats into breeding up on Dartmoor.
Mm.
There are lots and lots of places where people just don't go,
Hmm.
and there are lots and lots of places where these cats can thrive. You know, you've got sheep, you've got rabbits, you've got all sorts of animals up on the moors that can be their food source. And as I say, the climate is a walk in the park for them. So
Mm.
it just really wouldn't surprise me. I know I've seen a big cat on the moor, um, and from the experience of the skeletons and the report of the black cat, it seems they are still active. So
Mm.
it does make you wonder whether there is an ongoing genetic sort of
Yeah.
infirmity going on the moors, and I'm pretty sure there are.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes, and I mean, there's this whole kind of sort of denial or cover up of their existence as well, isn't there? That's
absolutely, absolutely. Um,
um,
it's it's sad. Um, People don't want to believe, or they think it's too far fetched. The authorities want to cover it up because they don't want people panicking. Um, in reality, I think there's a very slim chance of a big cat actually attacking anybody.
mm,
They're probably scared of their own shadow, I would have thought. Uh,
mm,
all they're all they're focused on is surviving.
yeah,
They don't want anything to do with people,
mm,
uh, because as far as they're concerned, they've been abandoned, haven't they? So
yeah,
it
yeah,
just makes you wonder. It just makes you wonder how many there are and what
mm,
area. I mean, there have been lots and lots of different reports of big cats, and you've had instances of lynxes actually being knocked down on the A38
oh,
that
I didn't know about that.
skirts the south of the moor. Yeah,
Ah,
back in the 80s,
mm,
there were a couple of lynxes actually knocked over, so run down.
mm, mm,
So they were obviously on the moor, and they
mm,
came off the moor and they tried to cross the road and they got run over. But
mm,
how many more are there?
yeah,
It just makes you wonder. It really does.
it does. I mean, if there were a lot of breeding pairs, then I can't imagine that they would all die out very quickly.
No,
That
no.
they would just
Well,
proliferate.
humans tend to live for about 13, 14 years. Um,
Mm,
Maybe longer if they haven't got a hard life, I guess. So
mm,
maybe they live for longer on Dartmoor, but there's enough food and the climate is quite nice for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were thriving. Um,
mm,
and it just, yeah, I'm more or less certain that there are breeding cats on the moors, but they keep out of people's way. But there are traces sometimes when you see it. It's quite
yeah.
difficult to go for a walk on the more remote parts of the moor without finding a sheep skeleton somewhere. Um,
Mm,
and yes, sheep do die of natural causes, and then the bones are kind of strewn away, and the wool is flung apart because of all the carrion eaters
mm,
out there, the
mm,
crows and the foxes and whatnot. But maybe just a little bit too many to account for that,
mm.
I would say.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've come across pony skeletons and
Mm.
all sorts on walls. And like you say, it's when once you get into the more remote areas, that's when you're more likely to come across
Absolutely. I mean, I know that there
animals.
were farmer reports of some sheep that had been attacked,
Mm.
and um, the sheep actually had claw marks in their rump,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that is a telltale attack
Mm.
pattern of a big cat. They literally clamp around and they bring the animal down, and the sheep actually escaped, but you could tell it had been attacked by something with very, very sharp, presumably retractable claws.
Mm.
And there aren't too many animals like that around. So it does
No,
does make you think.
does make you think. I mean. like you, I love walking on the moors, and I feel it's one of the safest places. To be honest, you can walk on your
It
own,
is.
isn't
It
it?
is
If you
really.
know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing, if you're
Yeah,
familiar with how, you need to take enough clothes with you to account for every season in one
yeah.
day.
Mm,
And if you know how to read a map, if you've got a compass with you, if you've got basic provisions to enable you to kind of have a good time on the moor and get out of difficulty if you find yourself in a difficult situation.
mm,
You need to be savvy. It's a wild place at the end of the day. You
mm.
need to be savvy, but yeah, it's there to be enjoyed. It is there to be enjoyed, and it is such a wonderful, wonderful place to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. But yes, all this talk of big cats, I don't think people need to be that scared. Like I
No.
say, I take a stick with me, but that's just in jest, really. I do, but I think if a big cat actually saw you, it would probably run a mile,
Mm,
and you
mhm,
just you would see its hindquarters disappear. I don't think you would ever encounter one unless it's by surprise. But
mm.
they will see you and smell you before you see them
Yes,
and smell them.
definitely.
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah. So there we are.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story. And there was
It's a
something
pleasure.
else I was just thinking about. It's gone out of my head now. Talking.
um,
Uh,
I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I we've talked about. We've talked about all of that, but it's the with Dartmoor. I think there are lots of legends. It's
mm,
uh, it's a place where it's easy for the imagination to be exercised. And
yes,
I think there are
definitely.
lots and lots of tales, lots of stories that come out of Dartmoor. We were
Hmm.
talking about the Lichway earlier, and
Yes,
interestingly, the Lichway crosses the Post Bridge Road, um,
quite. Yes,
right next to the bridge where the Hairy Hands of Dartmoor legend comes from.
yes.
So it makes
Yeah.
you wonder whether the Lech Walk, which is of course the parade where they paraded the dead bodies through from Belvoir
Mm,
through to Lidford Church. It makes you wonder whether there's some connection there between the parade of the dead and the
mm.
hairy hands of Dartmoor, because it's the
This,
same spot. It's the same
I
spot.
know, it is a spooky part of the moors.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've got lots of, quite a few ideas about the hairy hands legend, and um, because I did an episode about it because my great grandfather worked at Dartmoor Prison as
Oh wow.
a, yeah, he was a nurse. He'd worked at Parkhurst on the Isle of Wight,
Okay.
and then he moved his family to Princetown.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
so he was a nurse, and he was the chemist as well. He the pharmacist for the prison. So he assisted he assisted Dr. Helby, who was the doctor that was killed in the motorcycle
Oh
accident that
wow.
that started the whole hairy hands kind of
God,
legend.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, yeah,
God. So yeah, what a connection.
I
What a
know.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the more well-known legends, I think, around Dartmoor.
Mm,
Um, and then you've got the spirit of old Crockett as well, who sort of comes out of Crockett tour and parades across
yes.
the moor with his big hounds.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of that spirit, that kind of powerful, raw spirit, I think, that sometimes you can sense on the moors. And it
Definitely.
is yeah, it's definitely a powerful natural
Mm,
um, raw feel to the moors, especially in the, like I say, in the wilder areas.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and old Crockett has become a mascot, hasn't he, for
He
the
has,
right
really.
to roam
Yes, yes, he has.
movements at the moment,
Absolutely.
which I feel,
What better mascot
yeah,
to have?
mm,
He has free reign over the moors, and why shouldn't we? It
exactly,
belongs to the
exactly.
people. It belongs to the people.
It does, and in the last few years, more and more people are attracted to coming to Dartmoor, aren't they? And I think that's a sign that more of us are just needing that connection with nature, with
Definitely,
wild places. And
definitely.
yeah, it's our right to have access to these
Oh, it is.
amazing
It is.
wild, yeah,
And
places.
and it's sad that some people think that that shouldn't be a right.
Mm,
Without wanting to get too political about the whole thing,
yeah.
the idea that every piece of land has to be owned by someone,
Mm,
and then fenced off by them to stop the public from going on there. Well, you know, the public have had full rights to walk on the moors and camp on the moors in designated areas for hundreds of years.
yes,
So why should it change now?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
here to that. After we'd finished recording, Russ shared about a sighting he had of a ghostly cat at a very haunted castle called Bury Pomeroy in Devon. I asked him to record about the sighting on his phone and send it to me so I could add it to his episode.
Hello, Claire. Going back around about 1992, I was courting my first wife, and we decided to visit Bury Pomeroy Castle for a little outing. We had a little walk around. We're well aware that there's a lot of ghost stories, the Grey Lady, etc., sort of around Bury Pomeroy Castle. So I thought I'd keep my eyes open, see if I could get a feeling or see anything or glimpse anything. Didn't quite meet my expectations, but on the four corners of the castle there are towers, and they lead down into little dungeons in the basement, or oubliettes as they're called, and they had stone spiral staircases leading down. I walked down first so that if my soon-to-be wife would fall, she'd fall on me and not land in a heap on the floor. And I reached the bottom, glanced around at her, and I actually saw a black cat weaving between her feet while she was coming down the steps. I did a double take, looked back, and I said, "Watch out!" And lo and behold, there was no cat. Looks like some little feline, or the ghost of a little feline, had decided to make an appearance. I never saw anything again whilst we were there, but I quite definitely saw a black cat weaving between her feet. She was wearing light jeans and a white pair of trainers, and I'll never shake that experience.
Well, thank you for coming on and
Thank
talking
you for
with
having
me,
me.
Russ. It's been really
It's been
fascinating.
enjoyable. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, it's been
absolutely.
really fascinating. And
So
yeah,
I'll continue to go up on the walls. If I have any other experiences, then I will let you know. But you'll be
please,
the
yeah,
first to know.
please let me
Okay?
know.
Absolutely.
Okay,
No problem.
thank you.
Lovely. Thank
Bye
you
for
very
now.
much.
Thank you to Russ for sharing his experiences with us. And thank you to Goblin Kwain for her contributions to this episode. The title music for this episode is by 12 Trees, and it's called Forest of Butterflies, and Flowering Fields by 12 Trees. Other music used in the episode is copyright free from Pixabay. This show is entirely created and edited by me. Appreciate your support and for listening. If you have a paranormal or fairy story that you'd like to share with me, email the show clairefairywhisperer claire@gmail.com or claire@thefairyWhispering.com. Thank you. See you next time. Bye for now.